1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome back to another episode of the Talkin G-MAC podcast. My name's Katie Gilhooly, and as always, I'm your host. And it is a very special week here in Division II as we celebrate Officials Appreciation Week. And to celebrate that week, we have a special guest with us here on episode 5 of season 2 of Talkin G-MAC. And that is Brenda Hilton. Brenda is the founder and CEO of Officially Human, which I'll let her tell you a little bit more about that in a second, but we're really excited here at the GMAC as Officially Human has become one of our partners this year. And Brenda, we're excited to have you on this afternoon and really excited to hear more about Officially Human and all you guys do. So welcome to the Talkin G-MAC podcast.
Thanks, Katie. I appreciate you having me on today to talk a little bit more about the passion that I have surrounding officials and treatment of them and raising more awareness on how we need to humanize these individuals. So thank you very much for having me on.
Of course. Well, I want to take it all the way back to the beginning and talk about how Officially Human came to be and really what you all's ultimate message and kind of goal is with this program.
Okay, great. I'm not sure how much time we have, so I'll try to keep this short and sweet. I've been working in college athletics for 23 years, and in all of those years have always had some touch points with officiating coordinators, officials themselves in all sports, and really came to enjoy the space and appreciate what they do, why they do it, how do they get involved in it. And as my time went on, I was at the Summit League. It was the Mid-Continent Conference, and then it turned into the Summit League in 2007. And I was there for 11 years, and then I went over to the Big Ten, where I worked exclusively in men's basketball. And that is really where I learned a lot about officials as humans and kind of realized nobody really had their back. And so we were empty nesters in 2019, and I had kept hearing a lot of chatter about the shortage of officials and what people are going to do, and there's a retention problem, and how are we going to fix it? I couldn't find anybody that was really focused on the treatment of officials. And one weekend, born Officially Human, and it's Officially Human behind the stripes, but we kind of dropped the behind the stripes a little bit just because there's a lot of officiating groups, umpires that don't have stripes. So we wanted to make sure that we were all inclusive of all the sports. So that's really where it came from, and wasn't sure what we were going to do with it. But I think we're on a really, really, really strong path right now and spreading the word across the country on this mission. And I want to believe that there are more people than ever talking about the treatment of officials.
Well, you mentioned your involvement with officiating and, how it works as far as assigners and things are concerned. Last season, we had both our football officials assigner and our men's basketball officials assigner on. They talked about the importance of that official shortage. I think most people look to the official shortage to be partly at least, because of the treatment sometimes of those officials. What does Officially Human do to try and combat maybe some of that mistreatment or some of the things that happen during some of these sporting events where those folks who are, wearing the stripes per se, aren't always treated in the best of light?
Well, one of the first things we talk about when we are bringing on new partners is communication and conversation. And that has to start at the top. And as a side note, I will give the CCA at the Division II level, give them great props, because one of the things that they mandate for their coaches this year is for every coach to complete the Elevate Respect course that we developed and is now on the NCAA platform and available to every school in the Division I, II, and III levels. So that's a way to start conversation. And then we follow that up with, all right, now we have a series of PSAs that everybody can show. We talk about how everybody takes in information differently. So you may be standing at a concession stand and you see a sign that says, we have an officiating shortage. We need to treat them with respect. And it may resonate with you. The PSA is being shown at events across the country this year. Hopefully one of those will resonate with just another person. We all know that 95 to 96% of the fans are really good fans. It's that 4 to 5% that we're trying to nudge and try to reach. And we firmly believe that through more conversations and more awareness, more visuals, we'll accomplish that.
What are some of the things, or what's some of the advice maybe that you guys give to folks who are attending sporting events as far as remembering the name Officially Human? I think is a wonderful representation that there is a human element to this, and as humans we do sometimes make mistakes. And I think that's a lot of maybe what a fan might bring up. Well, I didn't agree with what the call was, or I think they may or may not have had the right call. What is kind of the advice for maybe some of our folks listening or watching who attend some GMAC games regularly, maybe to remember when they're in that position and they're at a game and they start to feel maybe a certain way about what they're seeing as far as what's being officiated during that time period?
The first thing I would say to people is just pause. Just pause. We are all, if we are at sporting events, we're all very competitive. We want to win. We want our teams to win. We want our kids to succeed. However, when you are an official, you are never going to be 100%. Never. And then take that a step further and just internalize that a little bit. Is anybody 100% at their job? Is anybody 95% all the time? No, we all make mistakes in life. And I've been guilty of yelling at officials when our kids were younger. Don't do it anymore. But we just have to realize there's so much on the line for these officials, for these players, for these coaches, for these fans. Everybody gets it. And an official does not want to make a mistake. They don't go out there to necessarily make a mistake and ruin somebody's day. One years ago, I was at a basketball tournament and there was a call at the end of a game. It wasn't a very good call. The official knew it. And after they came out of the locker room, I said, oh boy, what is wrong with these people? And that official said something to me that has stuck forever. And he said, do these people think we don't go home and think about these missed calls? I won't sleep for days over that. And that's true. The really good officials, they take it to heart. They don't want to make mistakes. However, somebody go out there at these kids are bigger, stronger, faster than ever at the collegiate level, and go out there and try to keep up with them. It's hard, and you've got noise in the background, and there's so much going on that it's a hard job. It's a really hard job.
We certainly appreciate that advice. What are some of maybe the misconceptions? I think it's really easy. We talk about, armchair quarterbacks or backseat drivers or things like that. We've not all been the quarterback of a collegiate or professional team. I know I've never been an official and I've never really dabbled in that space. And that's something that I personally try to remember when I'm critiquing officials while watching games of my favorite teams. But what do you think is maybe one of the most common misconceptions about officiating, or maybe something that folks might not know, or maybe would help them understand the kind of the level of pressure or what these officials go through, not only at the collegiate level, but down to the high school and maybe even the little league, and then, all the way up to the professional level?
One of the things that I try to tell people is just remember, a lot of times at the Division II, Division III, high school and lower level, these people have full-time jobs. They might bring their job with them to a game. Not supposed to, but they're human. They're going to do that. So always just remember that behind that person is somebody that has a family, that may have lost a pet that day, may have lost a family member. They are going through the same life struggles that you are as a fan or a coach or an administrator. So just remember that while they are not supposed to show their human side, their human element when they're out there on the courts and fields, but sometimes that's hard. That is really hard for people to do that. We can't do that. I mean, I know that there's days I bring my personal life to work. I take it to the grocery store. So we just have to remember that they're going through the same things in life that you are.
Well, you mentioned a little bit the elevate respect aspect of all of this, and really where the NCAA has embraced some of the material that Officially Human has put out there, and Division II specifically, and the Conference Commissioners Association, who is part of the group that sponsors Fall Appreciation Week, Officials Appreciation Week. But where, if folks are looking for more information on officiating, whether it's to get involved or ways in which they can support officials, what is this, the Elevate Respect, and what are some of the materials that Officially Human provides to really kind of help combat what has become a growing problem at all levels of athletics?
So our Elevate Respect program that's on the NCAA website, it's about a 20-minute video, and it takes you behind the scenes. So it's going to take administrators, players, coaches behind the scene, and it's going to show them, here's Ralph, the referee. This is what he does. He's got twin daughters. Takes you through each of those parts of officiating. And at the end, it's kind of bold, but this is what's going to happen if we continue to lose officials at such a rapid rate. So we have that. And then the NCAA has a program called Player to Ref, and that's for collegiate athletes. I think that's a really good path for players to become officials and kind of get, it's extra money. It teaches you life skills. So they have that program. And then the other thing that Officially Human offers is a series of public service announcements that we share with our partners. And those can be shown, on video boards, on streams, on TV, on television. So we want to make sure that we have a a large variety of items that people can see. And it engages them and it pulls them in. Within our media kit, we have PA reads, we have signage ideas. Any of our partners can download those and have them printed with their logo on them. So it's kind of a co-branded thing. We just sent out activation ideas to all of our partners. So it goes back to the core of conversation, creating conversation. What's going to work for the G-MAC at their championships or their campuses? What's going to work? How are they going to resonate this with their customers, their student athletes, their parents, their fans?
You started Officially Human back in 2019. That was a couple years ago, a handful of years ago now. What changes, or what is some of the response that you've seen since starting this program and getting some of this information out to the schools and the NCAA at least?
So the responses are overwhelming. And what we found is everybody will get on board with you if you give them the information, give them the tools. That's what we have found. When we produced our series of PSAs last year, that was kind of the tipping point for us. We've exploded. We now have 32 conference partners with the NCAA. We have a dozen lower level partners, including the state of Illinois, the Illinois High School Association. So we have to give them what they need to get the message out there. They don't want to create it. They don't have time. You and I both know at the Division II, Division III level, everybody is strapped in. Even at the Division I level, everybody's trying to figure out what college sports is going to look like. Then if you get down to the high school and the youth level, it's the same thing. They're trying to figure out, at the youth level, they're trying to make money. They got to pay the officials. They got to get teams there. In the space of officiating, I always felt like, and I think I'm right in this, everybody wants to fix the problem, but nobody has time to fix it. So give everybody what they need to at least start the conversations.
When saying that, I think you've mentioned some of the educational aspects of what Officially Human has been able to do to sort of combat this problem. I think, in your opinion, with what's talked about with your team and in your office, I think you mentioned with Ralph, the referee, there could be some serious repercussions if the official shortage continues and we can't figure out how to maybe find middle ground between officials, coaches, the fans. What could that look like moving forward? And I think we've seen it maybe at some of the lower levels or high school levels with maybe the cancellation of events sometimes because they can't find officials.
Well, there's two things that I talk about a lot. One of them is we just came off summer recruiting season for officiating, right? So everybody goes to camps and clinics and tries to get picked out by conferences. And I'm talking at the collegiate space. Well, for every 100 new official, so 100 new basketball officials, they get started, they get patched in the summer of 2024. By the time we get to 2026, 70 to 80 of them will be gone. So we will only have 20 to 30 of them left. These people have invested a lot of money trying to get to camps to get noticed. They get to the youth level, the high school level, and people are just terrible to them. And they're like, I don't need this anymore. So the second point is we have an aging problem. Yes, but they are aging out. But we have to figure out how to do that pipeline. We're going to start artificially promoting officials from the high school level to the small college level before they're ready. It's going to frustrate them. They're going to leave. So you have another layer to this. And so when you talk about how do we fix it, that's how we're going to fix it. We have to kind of start at the bottom, humanize them, get people to understand that we need them because eventually games are going to get canceled. And, well, even more than they already are.
I think you bring up a great point, and I think it's something that I'd like for you to expound upon if you can. I certainly have learned in my years in college athletics how that hierarchy of officiating goes and how our officials assigners find their officials. But maybe for those folks who are out there listening who don't have as much knowledge as maybe you and I as to what that looks like, what does the process of becoming a collegiate official look like?
So typically, an official will go to their local park district or high school association. They'll go to a kind of an information night, and they'll figure out how to get into officiating. And then they start going through classes. They'll go to some clinics, and I will say that each official kind of has to work for themselves. They have to promote themselves. They got to build their brand in officiating. There's so much stuff online right now to learn how to become an official. There's a group out there called Crown Refs. He does a phenomenal job in the basketball space. You can join. He does all kinds of stuff online. United Umpires, they do a great job. There's a lot of groups out there that are trying to go more towards the online training. But at the end of the day, there's a couple things. You got to find a mentor. You have to network yourself. You have to be a good person. Stay clean. Don't be getting in trouble, because as you go up the line, and a lot of these youth organizations, they'll do background checks. So you got to keep your nose clean. But find the mentor. Find the right person. If that first mentor doesn't work for you, go to the next one. It's okay. But you have to have somebody that's going to fight for you and teach you. And you have to be willing to take feedback.
With that being said, Brenda, I think you've shined a bit of a light on what it's like to be an official, and maybe some of the misconceptions that have come with officiating over the last few years as college athletics has become, I think, more high and higher of stakes and even at the professional level as well. And I think, like you said, we're probably all guilty of getting a little too upset with an official at some point. But remembering that, we all are human and mistakes are going to be part of it. Is a great reminder. We talked about what you've been able to do at Officially Human since 2019. This is going to be a broad question, but moving forward, what is your hope for Officially Human and officiating and the way that the Elevate Respect is brought to the table into the future?
Mm-hmm. So number one, my goal is not to make money. My goal is to make a difference in this space. And when we talk about what does the future look like, well, we have to continue to bring fresh new content to all of our clients, our customers, our constituents. That's what they want. They don't want to do it they want us to do it. So we've done that. We'll continue to do that. We have a couple more programs that we're talking about developing. Had a couple of calls this week already about that. So we just have to keep continuing to find out what resonates with people. How do we get to that, that person that just, we have to be able to convert some of these people. And again, if we convert, the 95 to 96% to be 97 to 98%, then that's success. But we can't stop talking about it. We have to keep talking about it.
Well, Brenda, we appreciate your time today. We also appreciate everything that Officially Human and your team is doing to help promote college athletics and athletics in general and the treatment of officials. It's certainly an issue, and we at the conference office here at the GMAC want to help combat that as well. So we appreciate your time today, your insight, and we also are really looking forward to this partnership that we've created with you guys over the next few years. So we appreciate that and are excited to have had you on Talkin G-MAC this week.
Well, Katie, thank you so much. And if anybody wants to reach me, it's Brenda@officiallyhuman.com. And our website is officiallyhuman.com. I would love to hear from anybody that's listening.
Wanna hear you go.